Hello everybody, I'm Michael, and this is my speedrun for Message Quest. As you can see, this game is made up of 16 different chapters, and I'm super lucky that you can select chapters from the main menu, because that allowed me to replay each chapter over and over and over again. I played through each chapter about 5 to 8 times, depending on the chapter. With the more difficult chapters, I played through them a couple of extra times because I kept screwing up and trying to get better times. With early chapters like this, no, I did not play through this chapter 8 times. This is a really simple chapter. In fact, it's almost over. It's mostly just clicking through conversation bubbles, as you can see. And I'll talk a little bit more about, the more difficult chapters when we reach them. The first 5 or so chapters are super simple, and chapter number 1 is already finished in less than a minute. Chapter number 2, also less than a minute long. We go through this conversation between Noah and Fest. Then I'm going to clear off that window by clicking on it 3 times. Get rid of 2 conversation bubbles for Fest, and just click that spider in the corner. Now we're going to have a conversation. So we have several conversations in this game. It's really interesting when you're playing the game casually, because you get to pick the responses for both characters. You get to decide what both characters say. That's really neat. You can control the conversation that way. But for the sake of a speedrun, all you need to do is move your mouse in the correct spot and just click over and over and over and over and over again to rush through the conversation. It doesn't really matter which options you pick. So that's just a fun thing to do when you're playing the game casually, but when you're playing the game as a speedrun, you just zoom through every conversation and you don't bother to read it. So this chapter was kind of more difficult in that you need to check out 4 things. You need to check out that shelf, you need to check off this apple, you need to check off the boots, and check off the cloak. So you'll notice Fest is walking here. He walks from item to item. So that was why this chapter was difficult. I had to play through this chapter multiple times to figure out what is the ideal order to look at things in. Because, depending on the order you put things in, that tells you where Fest is going to be at the end of the chapter, and you'll notice the chapter ends with him walking away. So it turns out going from left to right is sort of the fastest way through that particular chapter. Cool. I think this chapter is also a really quick one. Okay, we move the scroll to Fest, and we go through all those conversation options. And we have to drag Fest away. Cool, so that was a short chapter. Okay, that chapter was 24 seconds long. Very quick. Now we get some backstory. Okay, so a few hours before all that stuff happened. Basically, what's been going on is Fest was given a quest. Here's when the quest was given here. And when I say quest, I mean he was given a message to deliver. So, oh, and here we get some actual puzzles. Check it out, everyone. It's a jigsaw puzzle. Yep, yeah. So it's not just clicking through, speech bubbles. It's actually solving puzzles here. Hooray! So as you can see, the world of Avarange is about to be destroyed. So that person sent a message saying, "Hey, Grand Hero, you need to save the world." And now, Fest, he's the last herald. He is the one who is forced to deliver the message to the Grand Hero. Right there, you click on a frog to scare Fest. You click on the sleeping man. You go through his conversation, and then you're gonna have a little conversation between him and Fest. So you'll notice that I have to have my mouse on every single speech bubble. If you click while the mouse is away from a speech bubble, the game does not accept that. So with conversations like this one, oh, this is another puzzle, by the way. The solution is the same every single time. It's 1, 2, 1, 4. That's how many times you have to click to solve that particular scroll thing. It says that the hero we're looking for is the King of Bards. Now back to what I was saying. So you notice I have to keep moving my mouse back and forth between the 2 dialogue bubbles. That's because you cannot destroy a dialogue bubble unless your mouse is over it. So it's kind of a pain sometimes because I have to keep moving the mouse left and right. So with some chapters like this one, that's basically the fastest. I mean, that's basically what you have to do. Move your mouse quickly back and forth. That's the way to speed through the chapter. These are puzzles. So this puzzle is you just click the 4 symbols in the correct order. I think this one is a little bit more difficult. It's going to give you 5 options. Oh, 6 options to pick from. Okay, but it's still pretty simple. Still pretty simple, because we just learned how to do that puzzle. And let's see, they're going to walk to the inn where the King of Bards is located, and then this guy is going to disappear. Okay, so I believe this next chapter is going to be the longest, unless one of the later chapters is even longer. No, this is the longest chapter by far. Okay, so this chapter is, it's kind of crazy. So the first step is to simply go all the way to the right and meet that woman there. Her name is Madeline. She is the innkeeper. Okay, so we drag Fest. You'll notice I have to keep dragging him multiple times. That's just a control issue. I really wish that, you know, I could click him and drag him to the right, and then I don't have to grab him again and again and again and again and again. But for whatever reason, you know, I move my mouse as far to the right as I possibly can, and the game says, oh, you moved Fest 2 inches when I moved my mouse like 2 feet. Okay, so I'm going to mention the King of Bards. Madeline is going to be furious, and we are going to have an RPG battle, which is really cool. This is really cool. So basically I use puppy eyes on her. I think I go back and forth between healing and puppy eyes. Yeah, that's basically what you do here. You go back and forth between healing and puppy eyes. That top item there was to dodge her crazy attack, so whenever she's preparing, dodge that crazy attack. That's what you want to do. So it's kind of a simple battle, just going back and forth. Oh yeah, and Hysteria, that does 1 to 5 damage. I'm sorry if I'm doing a bad job of explaining it, but basically, we've got a couple of things I'm doing here. As you can see, there are 4 different options. So you want to use Hysteria as often as possible because that does 1 to 5 damage. If you can't do that, you want to use Puppy Eyes because that does a guaranteed 2 damage. Now, if she's preparing, you want to go to sleep. If you're really, really low on health, you choose the option which is at the bottom, option number 4. I never did that, so that's a good time saver. I made it through the battle without having to heal myself. That's really good. And you'll notice that final round of the battle, I attacked her rather than dodging her super strong attack because I knew I would do 2 damage and defeat her, and therefore she wouldn't be able to do her super strong attack. So that was also a time saver. So I managed to save myself a couple of rounds of the fight. You know, it's basically just randomized. If I had been lucky, she wouldn't have done the super strong attack ever, and then I wouldn't have had to dodge that super strong attack. Okay, and now we need to get through the door. So this is an interesting segment when you're playing casually. However, you know, if you're speedrunning it, it's basically just talk, talk, talk. So we talk to the door. The door says, I'm not letting you out. Now we're going to talk to the bird, and the bird is going to tell us that the bird needs a kiss. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to kiss the bird. And then the bird says we need to look inside ourselves, which is a clue to look inside the mirror. There are a couple of other items that you can interact with on the screen, like that big oven door. It's not necessary, so I completely skip it. And our buddy Fest realizes, wait, myself? I have a story, the story of myself. And then this is where you have another jigsaw puzzle. You have multiple jigsaw puzzles this time. So this is kind of a killer at the end of an already long chapter. Like I said, it's the longest chapter of the game, because you've got that long RPG battle, and then it's followed by this, the jigsaw puzzle. So I think there was a time where I had a really, really good RPG battle, but I just failed the jigsaw puzzle. And so it was not my fastest time ever. It is very, very sad, but that's what happened. Speaking of timing, when you start the game, I didn't show this because there's kind of no way to do it, but when you start the game, a little pop-up window shows up saying, hey, what kind of graphics setting do you want? Do you want fast graphics, good graphics? What size resolution do you want? And obviously I went with good No, I went with fast graphics over good graphics. So that's what I did. But I imagine, I played this in like 190/20 by 1080, however large the large full screen is. I'll actually look it up right now. Okay, we're finally on another chapter. I looked it up, so 1920 by 1080, that's the screen size that I played this game on. I imagine that, you know, in a super fantastic, perfect speedrun, would run the game in a smaller resolution just to make it go a little bit faster. You know, I don't think these graphics are that bad. I don't see like a lot of blurriness or anything, so I don't think it's that big a deal. But you know, just thought I would point it out. That's the graphics setting that I used for the speedrun. Okay, so this chapter, this chapter is really simple. I love how Fest just gives up and falls asleep. That's actually kind of funny. And then he thinks his dreams came to life. Alrighty, so we've got a lot of walking animations here, so that's something which is impossible to skip. So we'll notice everybody's gonna walk. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So yeah, a long time to walk. So that puzzle right there was just click on the fence. So I moved my mouse into a place where I would be destroying those text bubbles, and I would be able to click on the fence as soon as the text bubbles disappeared. So I just moved my mouse to the correct spot and just clicked multiple times. And that was it. That was it. So that was pretty simple. And now we have the piggies. Oh, the piggies are so cute. So, this chapter is mostly just going to be destroying rifts. Yeah, just conversations. We're going to go into conversations about Madeline's husband after this one, though. Okay, so this time we have 6 things to pick from, and you need to select 5. I think we have a second one. Yeah, we have a second one, and now they're going to have the conversation. So yeah, most of this chapter is going to be just walking along. I think my husband's dead, I'm pregnant, we wanted 7 children. Well, she is going to have a 7th child, she is pregnant, but her husband died from overeating. What a moron. That seems like a mean thing to say. And as Fest says, hey, infinite food, that's not exactly the worst deal ever, although he was trapped and unable to leave the inn. Yeah. Okay. So we only have one more rift puzzle after that. So, you know, the first 2 rift puzzles, you need to click on 4 correct things. The second 2 rift puzzles in that chapter, you click on 5 correct things. The final puzzle's clicking on 6. So, as you can see, the rift puzzles get progressively more difficult as the game goes along. This is kind of funny. He's gonna park. And he kills someone. Aw, that's cute. Okay, so Fiddler's Green. Another place where we've got a lot of different things we can interact with. That's sort of the puzzle, is figuring out what we need to interact with. And it turns out it's just those things on the left. That's all. So that's kind of neat. I mean, I like puzzles like that in an adventure game like this, where it's clearly just, we've got this tiny little screen, you solve puzzles on the screen, as soon as you move to the next screen, it's the next chapter. So, you know, I like how each I wouldn't say each chapter, but a good amount of chapters have like 3 or 4 bonus things that you can interact with, which you don't need to interact with. It makes the game a bit more challenging and interesting. So, obviously I'm not able to show that off during the speedrun. So that puzzle right there was just click on the colored things in the correct order. It's the same order every single time. Now we're going to have a conversation, and Fest is going to be mad and run away. I'm done. I'm done. I'm out of here, says Fest. He throws the scroll away, and then he just runs away. And now we're going to have a fight. So, let's see. This fight is going to be, let's see. Oh yeah, this fight is pretty easy. So, I switched between eating cake and pulling a guilty card on this guy. So that's option 1 and option number 3. So option number 2 is, let me see, no, option number 3, no, wow, I'm messing this up. So I switched back and forth between option 1 and 3, which is do 2 damage to him and then improve my own health. So number 4 is to increase your damage by 7. So basically I'm just doing that until I can increase my damage. So yeah, basically, you know, I'm just going back and forth between options 1 and 3 until I can increase damage twice, and then I'd be able to kill Lyn-Ryne with 1 go. Depending on what he does. Generally 1 go. It's going to be right here. Because I'm using that strong attack she used earlier. As we saw earlier, that strong attack takes 1 turn to charge. So it's a pretty simple RPG battle. If you're lucky, that's all you have to do. Just switch back and forth between options 1 and 3 until option 4 is available. Do option 4 twice, and then do option 2 twice. You win. As you might have as you saw there, Lyn-Ryne can in fact increase his HP. If he did that a lot, then you would be in trouble, and then your strategy wouldn't work. But strategy worked perfectly fine there, and it generally works that way. So I don't know. It's kind of a tough battle, but I kept following that strategy, and it seemed to work. So this right here is 3 jigsaw puzzles in a row, and they're kind of tough. They're kind of tough, the third one being the tough one. So he is remembering the time that he was lost and then found it. Wow, oh man. I actually got it correct. Whew. This is not the easiest jigsaw puzzle. There were plenty of times when the jigsaw puzzle, I just completely messed up on it, so this is definitely one of those chapters I had to do at least, you know, 7 times. Oh, come on, the game didn't accept that? Oh, I was right there. Whatever. Okay, so he realizes those 2 people who are just fighting with each other, they are the ones that saved him a long time ago. But now he has to fight his own laziness. Fest's laziness is going to destroy you. So, with this one, basically what you want to do is select option number 3 all the time. So option number 3 increases how much damage you do to your opponent. Right now I'm only doing, you know, 1 damage to opponent. Now I get to do 2 damage to the opponent with every turn. So basically, I'm trying to increase the damage I do, while at the same time I'm going back and forth between healing and increasing my healing. So generally when you're at the point where you can increase your healing to 5, then you're pretty good, because that gets you, you know, that will fill you up from like half health to maximum health pretty much every time. You can select the first option, which is you give yourself 3 more HP. I don't do that. I don't do that. You know, I suppose it could be a good strategy to do that as opposed to healing, but, I mean, you only increase your HP by 3, and I'm at the point where I'm healing myself 6 per turn, so 6 divided by 3 is 2, so you'd have to do like 2 of the increasing your HP to equal what I just did with 1 healing. And anyway, I'm at the point where, you know, I've got perfect, you know, my healing's good enough, I'm not really in danger of dying. I'm just going back and forth between the final 3 options, trying to get as much damage as possible. You'll notice I can only increase damage every 3rd turn. So at this point, it's like I don't really need to increase my healing anymore, but it's something to do while I'm waiting for the, you know, the skipping cooldown to be finished. So I should be able to win next turn. So I saw that I was 1 turn away from victory, and I selected the first option just for fun, so I used all 4 options in that battle. Hooray! And I like how the goal at the top of the screen talks to Fest. That's another thing you kind of don't notice when you're speedrunning the game, is that we've got a lot of jokes. The narrator just, you know, will often give you goals, right? But often will give you joke things and make snide comments about our characters. Okay, so Madeline says that pregnant innkeepers are the real heroes, and by golly, she's right. So we need to move all of her children there. I was gonna say all of her 4 children, but that's not true. She has like 6, right? And this is an easy slider puzzle. Yeah, really easy in that I don't have to move half of the things that are on the board. So, pretty simple. And this chapter's done. Another chapter which is less than a minute long. don't know why it takes a particularly long time to leave that chapter, but you notice we have like 2 to 3 seconds of just the cart being off screen and you don't see anything. I think maybe it's because they were loading this chapter, which is a bit more difficult. I guess. I mean, we've got those little snow bubbles, right? Snow is everywhere, so maybe that's why they had the previous chapter with a couple of extra seconds just to give themselves a little bit more room to load this one. Okay, so that was basically, it's really simple. That chapter was, you know, you click on the 6 things in the correct order, and then you just go through the conversation. This puzzle's really difficult, and I don't really quite understand it, but it's basically, you need to get those 2 things in the correct spot, and I always seem to miss it. You'll notice I missed by, like, what? A half a centimeter. I had to move the blue piece to the left a little bit. I don't know, but they need to be in relatively the same spot on the left-hand side. And once you've got it, you've got it. So now more walking animation. And we're going to have a conversation here. She actually blew out her voice singing. She can no longer talk. It's very sad. But it's okay, because she's the hero that saved the world. Or at least she managed to save these people. And that's really good, actually. Okay, so, here, Madeline solves the puzzle. So that scroll, which we saw unfurled earlier, the one that Fest has been carrying along the whole time, it's actually a bridge. It's actually a bridge, and here's more dragging. No, not more dragging. Because you'll notice I can't just drag all these characters across in one go. It's generally like 3 times. And you can tell by how far right my mouse goes. You can tell I'm just throwing my arm to the right to drag as far as possible. Okay, she's going to go across the bridge. The bridge is going to collapse, and then I'm going to pull her out, and I'm going to triple click on the snow to save the piggies. The end. Oh, the end of the chapter. Next chapter is going to be kind of long too. Let's see. Yeah, 2.5 minutes. So first we're going to have a conversation. It's not going to be much of a conversation. Yeah. And Madeline's going into labor. And this is another funny thing. The, you know, goal, deliver the baby. And Fest is like, what? No way, I'm not doing that. It's like, come on, Fest, you don't have a choice. Okay, so the woman decides she's going to be the one to deliver the baby, and Fest is just going to stay out here. And he's going to play dead. Okay, here you need to click on Fest. That triggers the children going out. That's actually one of the few time skips in this game. I think it might be one of the only ones. So normally what you're supposed to do is wait for the goal button to go up and tell you what your next goal is, but I could click on Fest before the goal actually appears. That's the only time that happens. Every other time you wait for the goal to show up, because you'll notice the mouse, you know, if the mouse is a cursor, you can move it. If the mouse has gears next to it, that means you cannot click. The game will not accept it if you click on something. So that was one of the cases where, for whatever reason, you know, it doesn't automatically turn into gears before the goal thing shows up. So yeah. It's like that was an example of, this is pretty easy. You need to click on each wheel a certain number of times. But, that was another example of like goal, just waiting for the goal to show up. And the baby's been born, hooray! So Lyn-Ryne is going to show up, and we're almost at the end of the game. Next chapter is going to be another one that's less than a minute long. Final chapter, it's also about a minute long. So hey Lyn-Ryne, we're going to have a conversation with him. He's actually been working behind the scenes to try to save the day and save all these people. So it turns out that he was the one who sent the scroll at the beginning of the game. Hooray! He wanted Madeline to become a hero, and he wanted to save her from being trapped in that inn, which is really nice. And along the way, our buddy Fest managed to become a hero. Sobbing, the boy has finally grown up. Okay, and this is a really simple chapter, not... I'm not quite sure why they included this chapter, but it's fine. So we just talked to all these characters. We talked to Noah here. Fest gives a speech, and we're gonna move those rocks out of the way, and then we're just gonna put that shield up. Oh, clean the shield, and then we put the shield up and say, Noah, look, I fixed the shield. I'm a great hero just like you. And he's like, great, you're fantastic. And then they leave. The end. Yeah, so this is technically where the game ends, but we have a bonus chapter, I guess you could call it. It's a prologue. It's a nice little chapter. So this is another one of those chapters, which is super duper easy to speedrun, actually. So this is a day before the start of the game. As I said, Lyn-Ryne is going to be the one to deliver the original message. We had the flashback chapter of him delivering the original message. So that's basically just a little bit of backstory here. So he's going to actually build the huge message, which doubles as a bridge. So here we've got, as you can see, we've got a ton of stuff on the screen that we can mess around with. And basically, he's asking for things in a specific order. So that's sort of the puzzle, is we've got multiple things we can interact with, but some of them we're not supposed to. Like, all those items on the shelf to the left, we're not supposed to do. You know, he asked for a tree. There's a tree poster. That's not the right tree thing. So that's sort of how this puzzle works, is, you know, we've got a bunch of items that we can pick from, and a lot of them are the wrong items. But if you're speedrunning the game, you know which items to pick, so, you know, just pick the correct items, and then you'll be on your way, and that's it. That's exactly, that's the end of the speedrun. So let me get the final time down. The final time was about 26 minutes and 34 seconds. So thank you very much for watching my speedrun. I hope you enjoyed it. You know, I hope my babbling while I explained the speedrun was not too crazy and made you very angry. I am going to post a version of this speedrun without commentary, so if you don't want to hear the sound of my voice, then you can watch that instead. Although we're at the end of the speedrun, so if you waited all the way until now to switch over to the version without commentary, I don't know why! That seems like a really long time to wait.